What's going on, guys? Welcome to another Lifestyle of Eden podcast. Today, we're going to talk about what I call the chicken and the egg, right? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? The egg comes now from the chicken, but hey, the chicken originally came from the egg, right? So it's this big argument and debate. I like to say it's really not a debate; it's a debate of the world. But when you have the revelation of the scriptures, you'll always know that there is a root. One did come first. We actually see this in the New Testament. Does man come from woman or does woman come from man? Well, the scripture says by Paul that now man comes from woman. But which came first? Well, this is why we have to go to the Garden of Eden. And this is really, right? We've talked about this before, the lifestyle of Eden. Lifestyle of Eden was all a revelation based off of the Garden of Eden. And so in the Garden of Eden, did woman first come from man or did man first come from woman? Well, we know from the scriptures in Genesis chapter 2 and 3 that woman came from man. God took a rib from Adam, developed a woman out of it, brought her, and that was his wife. But now, yes, through woman comes man, through birth. But the chicken and the egg concept always does have a root. The chicken and the egg can be man or woman concept. Does man come first? Does woman come first? Well, like I said, biblically we have the root. We know which one comes first. Well, the chicken and the egg concept can come with the thyroid as well, and same thing with the gut. The thyroid or gut, which comes first? Thyroid issues or gut issues? And the reason I even connect these two is because 50% of people with a gut issue actually have a thyroid issue. And 50% of people with a thyroid issue actually end up having a gut issue. So the question is which comes first, and it really depends on a couple different scenarios. There is a scenario where the thyroid is the chicken, and there is a scenario where the thyroid is the egg. Which one ultimately comes first? So we'll talk about these two different concepts with the thyroid and the gut microbiome. Let's start first as the gut microbiome being the root. The gut microbiome being the ultimate chicken, which is the root, the one that gives birth to the egg, the thyroid problems. How does this happen? Well, within the gut microbiome, there's many reasons why you can get these issues, but whether you get H. pylori, parasites, candida, SIBO, gut dysbiosis, whatever it may be, low stomach acid, which will end up developing into SIBO and dysbiosis and so forth, whatever it may be, when you have a gut issue of any kind, leaky gut, blah, 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 right? I've taught on all these things so many times. When you have these issues, what ends up happening? The body becomes inflamed. Well, when the body becomes inflamed, there comes this point of systemic inflammation, where the inflammation goes throughout the whole body on a chronic level. Day after day after day after day over time, the body becomes inflamed. Well, when this inflammation happens, what ends up happening? The body becomes insulin resistant. Why? Because insulin is a hormone. Just like any hormone, it has to attach to cell receptors. You have receptors on every cell. So if it attaches to the cell receptors, then it opens the cells up and it allows the sugar in the blood to go in there. Well, if you're inflamed, these cells become deaf or senescent cells, zombie cells, where they can no longer receive hormones. So they don't respond to insulin, and then the blood sugar sits in your bloodstream even longer than it should. Well, the same thing happens with every other hormone. Thyroid is a hormone. Testosterone is a hormone. Estrogen is a hormone. Your cells, because of inflammation rooted in the gut, can become deaf to all hormones, which now means that your thyroid hormones are not even being received in your peripheral cells or in your muscular cells. So now your body's not able to use it, right? Or your thyroid can become attacked to where because of the inflammation will actually start to attack thyroid cells in the thyroid gland and will cause it not to produce the thyroid hormones that it's meant to produce, which is why your pituitary gland will start to release more TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. This is why people on many blood works that I get, their thyroid stimulating hormone is high. Why? Because their thyroid stimulating hormone in their pituitary is saying, hey, for some reason we don't have enough thyroid hormone. I think we need to release more thyroid stimulating hormone to stimulate the thyroid to release more T3 and T4. Well, what's the reason for it, right? We always go in functional medicine. Functional means root causes. So in functional medicine, like in my practice, we deal with root causes, not the symptom. Why is the thyroid not functioning right? Oh, it's being attacked by inflammation within the body, especially if you have leaky gut, right? Leaky gut is the root cause to every single autoimmune disease on the planet. Every single one. There's not one autoimmune disease on this planet that is not rooted in leaky gut. Yes, if you have an autoimmune disease, you have a leaky gut, 100%. Well, when you have leaky gut, you end up creating inflammation. And when you have leaky gut, your body cannot properly digest gluten. So many people think they're gluten intolerant. I've actually had people that think they're gluten intolerant. They come to me, we get tested, and they have no gluten intolerance. And I go, do you want to know why your problem is with gluten, but you really don't have a problem with gluten? And they go, yeah, why? And I go, because you have a leaky gut. Gluten starts to give off an expression of zonulin within the body, which opens up tight junctions in the small intestine, which causes leaky gut. So when you have leaky gut, eating gluten just makes that worse. It's not because your body's allergic to gluten in and of itself. It's because what the gluten is releasing, which is zonulin expression, okay, which zonulin comes from the protein within gluten. And so when this happens, Dr. Pat Luce actually discusses in his book, 7 Systems Plan, he discusses that when the immune system becomes inflamed, right, it starts to put off inflammation because it's detecting a virus or an infection of some sort. Your immune system actually confuses thyroid for gluten or gluten for thyroid. So what does the immune system do? When it's attacking gluten or these other things or zonulin expression, what does it do? It thinks thyroid is gluten. So it starts to attack your thyroid. Whenever it attacks the thyroid, what is this called? This is where we start to get into Hashimoto's, which is a hypoactive, an underactive thyroid, and it's an autoimmune disease coming from this very concept rooted in leaky gut or gut issues. The inflammation is causing either to attack the thyroid or it's causing your cells to be deaf to thyroid hormones, whatever it may be. But in this scenario, the gut is actually the root cause. You fix the gut, and this is what's actually called not hypothyroid, but what's called temporary hypothyroid in medical literature, meaning you don't actually have a thyroid problem. So we have all these people that are over-diagnosed or over-prescribed thyroid medications, and in reality, they have no thyroid problem. They have a gut and inflammation problem. You remove the gut and inflammation issue, and within 6 to 12 months, the thyroid starts to heal itself and starts to operate optimally again. So this is why I always tell people, when you have a thyroid issue, there's a good chance you're dealing with a gut issue. In fact, I still, to this day, have never actually had a thyroid case that did not have a gut issue related to it. Whether the thyroid was first or second, which we'll get to why it comes first later, but in this case, it's second. It's a byproduct of a gut issue. I've never actually had one without the other when it comes to thyroid issues. So fix the gut issue. Now you're going to need a GI map. You're going to need to go through a 5-hour protocol, and this is like what my practice does, but this is something you're going to have to do. You're not going to fix it by taking a probiotic. Sorry, it's just not going to happen. But this is where the chicken that comes first produces the egg. The gut issue is the chicken, and the thyroid is the egg. Like I said, the Bible tells us there's always a root. There's not a chicken and egg theory. You can always know which one came first. So we can just figure that out here with this case. Now, what about the other way around? When can the thyroid first become the problem, which is the chicken, and then it produces the egg, the gut issues? Well, there is a statistic right now, which I think is too generous of a statistic. It says that 1 in 8 women in the United States have an underactive thyroid. I actually think that that's wrong. I think that it's closer to 1 in 4. 1 in 5, I would say at the very least. I think it's closer to 1 in 4, though, in 2024. Now, this doesn't give an exception for men, right? Men, it's very prevalent. I know multiple men that have struggled with this issue as well. In fact, including myself in my past, myself as well, which is why I've known so much about the thyroid, because first it happened to me. Just like the gut issues, just like blood work, all these things. First it happened to me, and it dove me so deep into these things over the last several years. Well, the number one reason actually for hypothyroid or an underactive thyroid is actually a mineral deficiency or an iodine deficiency, right? Selenium and iodine are the two go-tos when it comes to helping thyroid function. But iodine deficiency is actually the number one reason. And it became such an issue. That's the reason why the United States developed iodine salt, so that we get it in our diets, because it became such a problem in the United States. But it is the number one reason for thyroid issues. Well, when you have an underactive thyroid, and let's just say it comes from low iodine, selenium, from whatever it may come from, and let's not use the, oh, it runs in my family. No, it doesn't. Behaviors run in your family. So yes, it seems to run in your family, but once again, that's a symptom of what runs in your family. Root causes and behaviors and practicing habits run in your family. Let's not blame genetics. Blaming genetics is like having light switches in the house that you bought, and you don't have to turn on those lights. You get to choose if you want to turn those lights on or not. Sure, I have certain genes in this house that I have, this body, but I get to choose if I want to turn those lights on or not. And that comes through behavior. That comes through nutritional choices and so lifestyle factors and so forth. But anyway, when it comes to the thyroid, let's just say it's from iodine deficiency or whatever it may come from. But you have an issue that you can fix through a certain lifestyle habit, but the thyroid is becoming underactive because of it. Well, what ends up happening? Remember how I said earlier, there's a statistic that 50% of people with thyroid issues end up getting a gut issue. Why? Because thyroid, specifically T3, free T4 converts into free T3, right? And your free T3 is what governs what? Metabolism. It's what governs the way that your body will actually run through your food. Well, if you have an underactive thyroid, your food is not going to be digested. It's going to sit in the gut microbiome and ferment. What happens when it sits and ferments? It develops small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO, and gut dysbiosis. It can develop H. pylori. It can develop leaky gut. It can develop all these things. I've personally seen people who had a gut problem. They fixed the gut problem, but didn't know they had a thyroid problem, and the gut problem actually came back. Why? Because you didn't fix the root. The root cause was not the gut issue this time. That was the egg. The root cause is actually the thyroid. It's allowing food to sit and ferment, and so you've got to fix the thyroid issue. So temporarily, you may have to get on NP thyroid, which is a natural glandular prescription. It comes from the glands of animals, thyroid glands of animals, to boost that thyroid in order to fix the gut. And then afterwards, you just use the prescription as a Band-Aid until you get to the root cause. Now we go, okay, let's do iodine tests. Let's do selenium tests. Let's do mineral testing, blood work to see what your thyroid is missing so that we can fix that and ultimately get to that root, right? That's what functional medicine is. We may use prescriptions as a means of a Band-Aid, but it's only for the sake of holding on to things until I get to the root cause. It's not the end-all be-all. So if you don't fix the thyroid, you end up getting this gut issue. And then what happens? Now it does become the chicken and the egg thing, where you end up getting the gut issue, you end up getting leaky gut. And then you end up having an immune system problem. Then the immune system does what? It starts to attack, or it starts to cause hormone resistance, where your body can't even receive the T3 or T4 that your body is producing. And then you start to have an attack on the thyroid gland, which can develop into Hashimoto's. So you see how one thing leads to another, and that's why we go, wait, is it chicken, is it egg, is it this, is it that? But you just have to look at which scenario you're dealing with, and you have to take it from every angle. But this is the problem. It is a major epidemic. It is one of the reasons why the things that I specialize with in my practice is blood work issues, obviously, but estrogen dominance, thyroid, gut health, and autoimmune diseases. And type 2 diabetes falls right into that, which I'll explain at another time why 48% of people with type 2 diabetes actually have an underactive thyroid. Why? Because like I said, T3 governs metabolism. So if your metabolism is not metabolizing the blood sugars properly, or there's inflammation, which type 2 diabetes is rooted in inflammation, what's happening? Your cell receptors are blocked off from even receiving insulin, or receiving T3 or T4, or receiving testosterone, all these things. So nevertheless, the inflammation, the gut issues, the thyroid, these are the roots of all these different problems today. And they're an epidemic, and they're skyrocketing, and people aren't knowing what to do with it because the metformins are not getting the job done anymore. The prescriptions aren't getting the job done anymore. The statins and the cholesterol medications, by the way, cholesterol is an inflammation marker, are not getting the job done anymore. because you're not dealing with root causes. So when it comes to the chicken and the egg, the gut and the thyroid and the gut, you have to see these things from all angles, and sometimes these take multiple tests. These take blood works. These take GI maps. Sometimes they take Dutch testing, right? Because if you're dealing with a cortisol issue, guess what? You're already dealing with a thyroid issue. So then sometimes you got to get a Dutch test or CRT test. These things have to be discovered at every single level across the board, which is why functional medicine is the future. The Lord showed me that with the Lifestyle of Eden, which you can listen to in the Lifestyle of Eden intro podcast. But anyways, I hope that this helps you out. I hope that this gives a little bit of insight and perspective into the thyroid, into the gut microbiome, that there is always a deeper tale to tell, and not to just jump to prescriptions. And honestly, the sad thing is that on blood panels today, your doctor will not test your reverse T3, your free T3, your thyroglobulin antibodies or TPOAB, your, all these different things they will not test. They'll test for TSH and free T4. But free T4 turns into free T3. So why are we judging things off of free T4? Same thing with our insulin markers. Most doctors won't even test for insulin. They'll test for fasted glucose and A1C, but not insulin. There's so many. They won't test for ferritin. They won't test for so many different things. But the thyroid panels, in fact, I was sitting with a nurse practitioner the other day. He and I were just sitting there talking, because I showed him a full blood panel that I get for all of my clients. And he goes, "Where'd you get this from?" And I said, "I have a connection. This is where I get all my clients' blood works for." And he said, "Do you know why people don't run the thyroids?" And I said, "Why?" He goes, "It's too much of a financial hassle. These types of tests will cost you $800 or $900 because the medical field is greedy. My clinic does it for $200 or $235 if you're a woman. The full panel. Why? Because it's also a functional medicine clinic. So not only do I have a functional medicine practice, but I connected with a functional medicine clinic for that reason, to make things more affordable, to actually be able to see things from all angles. But it's an epidemic that we don't even know about, unfortunately, because whenever we check our blood work, it's not even tested on there. And then many of these nurse practitioners don't even know about it. I was actually up in Iowa, and I asked them, I got my blood work done years ago up in Iowa, and I asked the nurse practitioner, I said, "Hey, where's my insulin?" And she pointed to the A1C and glucose, and I said, "No." I said, "My insulin." She goes, "What do you mean?" And I said, "What do you mean, what do I mean? It's a pretty simple question. Where's my insulin?" She goes, I don't know what you're talking about." And I go, "Okay." So I go to Houston for about a month and a half. I get my blood work done, and I get the insulin tested, and I bring it back up to Iowa. I place it on the nurse practitioner's desk in Iowa. She looked me in the eye. I kid you not. I cannot make this up. She looked me in the eye and said, "Nick, I have never seen this on blood work in my life." So it's not only that it's not being tested, these doctors and nurse practitioners aren't even trained up in it, and so they don't know about it. And that's not their fault. I don't blame them for that. That's the fault of the system, right? They're just doing their job that they know how to do, that they were trained to do well and the best that they can do it. But this is the problem, is that they're not even trained up in these things to know how to deal with these things, because they don't even know what they're looking for or what to look for. Now, is this everybody? No. But is this a majority? 100%. So it is a route that we have to look at from a functional perspective and digest it from every angle. You guys, I hope this helps. And if there's any questions that you may have or help that you're needing, please feel free to email us at lifestyleofeden@gmail.com. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, lifestyle_of_Eden. Also, my personal Facebook, Nick Tognetti, and the Lifestyle of Eden Facebook page, as well as the Lifestyle of Eden YouTube. And don't forget to always check out every week our Spotify and Apple for our podcast. All right, guys. Thank you. Till next time.